Sheet Saber. We are going to talk through the morning, just live before lock for the morning slate, 4-gamer. Same thing with the evening one. We'll do a little live show for that. I'm sorry, a little preview show for that afterwards. And I didn't play yesterday, which makes it one of my better days of the month. So it was a good day for me. Sheets, how'd you do? And
I did okay. I got like ninth in like that FanDuel Roto Grinder single entry thing for like 750, which is pretty good on FanDuel. And DraftKings, I cashed in like the 250, the ball four, and did okay in some things. I think I ended up like winning a little bit of money, but nothing great, nothing bad. Two kind of very uninspiring slates today. You got a four gamer, and then a later 4-gamer with some weather issues. So who knows what it actually amounts to? But I'll be there at 6. And thanks for everybody that was there last night for the live before lockdown. Again, I was like dead. I mean, people were saying, "Oh my God, Sheets is dying." I was like so sick yesterday. But we got through it somehow. My internet was bad during the 12 o'clock one, so it was a rough day content wise, but we got it done. The MMA DFS slate preview went up like an hour or two ago, and I'm going to do the betting thing either later tonight or tomorrow, and yeah. So I mean, let's get started. I guess. I mean, do you like anything in this slate?
I mean, I like the idea of not stacking. I like the idea of playing a little bit of Toronto, a little bit of Minnesota. Toronto, Minnesota, Atlanta would be my 3 favorites. I think Atlanta will be the popular one if people can find a way to get them in, which I think they can. So they're going to be pretty popular. I also think that there's a good argument for a low on Pittsburgh side of things. That's maybe my different way of playing this slate is to play some Pittsburgh because they're going to be very low on. So that's
my highest owned stack right now.
Okay, I like that.
Pittsburgh, yeah. It's Pittsburgh and Atlanta. Those are my top 2. And I have some combo Pittsburgh Braves together. I actually have a bunch of those.
Yeah.
Because you got these the Henry Davis and Zawinski and Rivas, they're hitting 4, 5, 6, and they're like all like free. So that works out. What are you doing pitching wise? Because what I'm doing is it's I went with the fade as far as my pitching goes. Like when I ran the projection and stuff, it was like it was really clear to play Maeda along with the Reese Olson or whatever. But I ended up when I ran like SaberSim thing, putting in ownership, like I get very little Maeda. So I'm kind of going with that. It's probably a shitty idea, but I mean, it feels like Maeda is like clearly the best play. I mean, honestly.
Yeah.
But hey, it's baseball, whatever. So I'm doing a lot of Olsen with Manoah, Olsen with Glope, Syndergaard, just all kinds of crap. Olsen with Dean Kramer, So it's that's kind of what I'm doing. I mean, again, it's definitely not the best play, but again, in the 4-game slate, I guess you got to get different somehow.
Yeah, and I think like you could literally make like a pretty good case for almost every. I don't think I'd play Syndergaard, but basically every play. And so I actually think Hunter Brown is the guy. Like I understand there's a little bit of weather, but it looks like it'll be a delay, and they have enough time to get it in. I think Hunter Brown is a really good upside play. We also know that Maeda doesn't get overextended a lot. Actually, Hunter Brown doesn't necessarily. Well, he can, but he doesn't necessarily get overextended a lot either. So I'm kind of rolling with those 2, even though they're pretty chalky. But it's just I just found it a little bit harder to feel great with the other ones. I do think Kremer is fine. I think Manoah's fine. I think Reese Olson's fine. I personally like the Minnesota side a little bit, so it's harder for me to play Olson. But not playing many lineups, and I think I'm okay with eating a little chalk at pitching, especially if I'm going to play at least a minimum of 3 Pittsburgh guys in my main build.
Yeah, that makes sense. I got to change some lineups. I had that 2K A Williams in, and he's out for Pittsburgh. That sucks.
Well, who the shortstop?
I had what's his name? Yeah, Alika Williams in,
Yeah,
but he's out. So I have to change my.
And shortstop is not the most fun position either today. Pretty. Yeah, I mean, right now my biggest buy-in is a 3-3-2 with Pittsburgh, Atlanta, and Toronto. Some individual plays I think that are really worth playing today. Like remember with Syndergaard that he's the worst ever, basically holding runners on. It's only gotten worse as the pitch clock and everything has come into play. So Whit Merrifield is like a really good bet to steal a base today. George Springer is a good bet to steal a base today.
Does he still do that, Merrifield?
Yeah. I mean, they don't run in general in Toronto that much, but if the opportunity presents itself, like you're facing Syndergaard, I think this is the time where you would bet on him to be more likely to run. But they definitely don't do it as much in Toronto because they play the old A's way. You play for the home runs and all that. Yeah. Anyway, I do think if you just wanted to go completely different, playing the Tigers would probably be, this is like the time where getting the leverage, I think, makes the most sense. You know what I mean? Again, they don't rate as well for me. I like the Pittsburgh thing a little bit better, but playing the Tigers against Maeda, I think is a viable option, even though it's a pretty ugly lineup. But if you get the bad Maeda, you're going to be way ahead of everybody else. Cause I just don't see anybody. I mean, Detroit will be the lowest owned team on the slate. You have the leverage against the top owned pitcher who's going to be 50% owned. I think that's probably your large field best option to get really, really different. But again, lots of different ways to go.
Yeah, so I got to change this this Williams thing. Who is in for Pittsburgh then?
I don't think he only played like 3 games. That guy, I never even considered him. I don't know. I didn't see it. I guess you do it early in the morning, so I probably saw the lineup before. Probably Peguero would be the one. I'm going to answer a few of these quick questions in chat, and you can throw in your thoughts too. Do I think you can get away with hitter versus pitcher today? Absolutely, but I would not do it with a high price. I would rather go lower price with stolen base and power upside. If you want to do a high price guy, it's fine. I wouldn't prefer to like play Acuna, you know what I mean? If you were going to play, well, I guess you're not going to play Bailey Falter, but I don't know. I probably wouldn't play Jose Ramirez against Manoah if I had them both in the same lineup, but even that's okay. Maybe what I would be looking for more if I'm playing Manoah is play a guy like Calhoun at 2,400, or if you're going to play Maeda, maybe you could play Ibanez at 2,500. Those would be the kind of plays that I think I'd use against my pitcher today if I needed to. And Clay Davis says he's loving the process streams. He wants to see more like that. Okay, well that's great. But the good thing is once they're done, that's sort of the general process, and we could always set up something to go over some of any questions or things like that. But the great thing about those videos.
Well, what we can do also, I mean, I was thinking about this, is maybe we could do two different things. We could do like a breakdown. And then I could also and then we could do like the way I do it also separately or something.
Sure.
I don't know. Whatever they want. I don't really care. It's like really whatever they want.
Okay.
So wait. So who's 3, 6? I got 10 guys playing. Oh no, there's Manoah. Okay, there's Manoah. Yeah. So I have to rebuild here with the with no Varsho and no Alec Williams. Oh, Alika Williams.
Yeah.
Let's see if I still get all those Pittsburghs.
Well, I mean, Pittsburgh is your leadoff hitter is 2,300, your cleanup hitter is 2,200, your 5 hitter is 2,900, your 3 hitter is 3,300. So
I presume that the departure of Alika Williams is not going to impact that too much.
Yeah, it shouldn't. The only thing
it's not actually. I'm still getting all that same stuff pretty much. All right, good.
Yeah.
And now I'm getting even more Pittsburgh. Let's go.
Yeah.
And
I think it's a great way to go. I like it.
And you know what? I have all kinds of ridiculous stack, like 4 1s, like 3 2 2 2. I mean, I have all kinds of stuff. It's like a 4-game slate. I mean, anything's possible.
Yeah, you gotta get a little creative. But yeah, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, I do think if you're playing like I don't recommend cash in general. I also think if you're playing cash, but I do think if you're playing cash on this slate, I do think I would go with Maeda and probably. Maybe Maeda and Olsen or Maeda and Elder, even though I'm playing Pittsburgh because we're playing tournaments. And then I think that your main stacks, you would try to play as much Atlanta as possible would probably be optimal way to play your cash game lineups for what it's worth. And I would probably try to get Whit Merrifield in there if possible. Just because I think he's the best, most likely to steal a base. Or George. I mean, Springer's just a little bit more expensive, but not much.
Have you ever played a baseball cash lineup?
Yeah, I played cash early on. I actually did really, really well in cash for a long time. I just got really annoyed by it. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I just don't find it like remotely interesting.
Neither do I, but that's why I stopped. And I also realized that like I had to be playing probably at least twice as much cash as tournaments for it to make sense, and I was not willing to do that because then it gets really expensive really quick.
Right.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Brandon, thanks so much, man. I'm glad to hear it. I'm sure it's mostly towards because you've been covering most of this stuff lately, but he's been enjoying the streams, he says, and knows nothing about baseball, but been helping a lot. So that's great to hear. Brandon is a way of he's like he got little sheets in him because he takes the information and somehow he makes a lot of things work. Like I remember we were talking during NBA season and all these play ideas that we had, he just always kept finding the right combination that I couldn't seem to get to. So shout out to Brandon for being a really good DFS player. And with that, what else can we talk about here on this?
Yeah, one other thing I can talk about. So I wonder if I should. You don't play Noah Syndergaard. I'm getting a lot of him.
I mean, look, I don't think it's like the worst thing in the world on this slate. There's a lot of, it's just nobody's all that exciting and nobody's all that owned. He's one of them. He's the cheapest of the guys that, I just. Toronto doesn't strike out at all. He doesn't strike anybody out anymore. And it's just hard for me to see him having a great game. But like, if I was, and I wouldn't cross him off on the max entry. I probably wouldn't play more than like 10% of them. But we'll talk. To Rich, to answer your question about do we do cash GPP breakdowns? Yeah, we do. We do the breakdowns for the NFL, and I always throw in the cash plays. I'm happy to add that to part of the thing. It's pretty straightforward in NFL. Usually, you've got 20 guys who are basically viable options for cash every week. So you're not making too many tough decisions. But yeah, I'm happy to touch on all that.
I like the Hunter Brown idea, Bobby.
Yeah, I just want to play the upside game there. And I think he will be lower owned because he's facing Baltimore, which is, fair enough. But like, I still like the talent.
Yeah. And I literally didn't even look at FanDuel early slate.
No, there's split slates on FanDuel. I just never get a chance to check, but happy to answer any questions if it kind of come up.
Yeah. The other thing I have to figure out is how to keep forgetting how to do this. How to put when we save the live streams to YouTube, I'd love the chat to show up on the replay. I don't think it does.
For wait for what?
When we do these live streams,
mm-hmm.
I'd like the chat to show up on the replay when we load the live stream to YouTube, and I don't think it's doing it. I'm gonna figure out how that works.
I'll take a look at that too. Okay.
I'm sure it'll take me 10 minutes to Google it and figure it out. But
yeah, I'll take a quick look at that as well.
Oh, you thought the chat just show up? Oh, okay, Scott. There you go. There. Okay, perfect.
Yeah. What is everybody else doing out there?
By the way, Scott, we haven't talked about this. Dude, you deserved better the other night. So you weren't sweating this, Bobby. They had the Scott had a really good lineup in the 4-ball the other night, and I really thought he was going to win. He had a really low owned Gilbert, and everybody else had Scherzer or whatever, and Gilbert had like 20 fantasy points in like 3 innings or something like that. He was like off to a freaking flying start or something, and I don't know exactly what happened. I stopped sweating it, but I really thought he was going to win. That's the best.
That's too bad. Yeah, I would love for Scott.
It was a really good pivot, and I was wondering, Scott, did you swap to Gilbert late, or did you from Scherzer, or did you always plan on having Gilbert in that lineup? That's what I wanted to ask you, because I remember I talked about like if you were if you needed to swap, you should probably swap Scherzer to somebody like Gilbert. I was wondering if you swapped to him or if you actually had him.
I'm sure he didn't swap to
from the beginning. I'm just curious.
Everybody talks about swapping. I don't think anyone actually really does it in baseball. I really don't. I feel like we're in the tiny minority of any of us who do. Like, I really just don't think people swap in baseball.
Scott, you're on the whole way.
Yeah.
Okay, Brandon, that's the answer. Okay, it takes a show.
Oh, there you go. Brandon with the answer for us. But I'm going to answer Clay's question. He asked me why I like 4-2 stack types on DK. I never said I like 4-2 stack types. I just like anything that gets different. Any non-5-man stack gets different. Also, on smaller slates, there's absolutely no reason to the 5-man stack with the correlation. The points you're getting are almost non-existent on DK, especially as opposed to FanDuel. FanDuel, the correlation means so much more than it does on DraftKings. It just makes sense to get different than 90% of the field if you have a very basic way of doing it without giving up really any edge, in my opinion. So that's my answer. And I like it better on small slates than I do on big slates. I don't tend to usually – I'll do 4-4s and stuff like that, or 4-3-1s every now and then on big slates. But mostly it's going to be 5-mans on the 14 gamers. And on the smaller ones, you really just don't need to worry about stacking at all. You could play your favorite bats. We've seen people win every which way. I've seen many guys win over and over again, even the lottery with different guys from every team. I don't suggest doing that, but I do think getting like 3-3-2s here and there and 4-4s and 4-2-2s, 4-3-1s on smaller slates makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, the most important thing about what I think Bobby just said was that if everybody's, again, listen, I think that in general playing 5-man stacks like in a vacuum is better than playing 4-man stacks, and playing 4-man stacks better than playing 3-man stacks. However, if everybody's just putting 5-man stacks into Fantasy Cruncher or whatever, or Lineup HQ and just saying, okay, give me like 155-man stacks, then again, if you have a slate where you could get away with not playing 5-man stacks, you're getting a good amount of leverage there. And then if there was actually a slate where 5-man stacks were just simply not optimal, you know what I mean? Then it's even double the pleasure. You know what I mean? Then it's probably right not to play them in the first place. It's kind of hard to tell though. You know, obviously the shorter the slate, the less you need to play. Yeah, play 5-man, that's for sure.
Yeah, the shorter the slate, and then also one thing I've run into before is you get a really overpriced. It used to happen more often, where they would price everybody up in coolers like 2,000 more, and I'm like, okay, well I can play, let's just say Aaron Judge, or I can play the 5th man of a stack who's 5,500 who's hit 1 home run all year long or something. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm just going to play Aaron Judge in that case, especially if let's say I have another Yankee or 2 in my lineup that surround him. It just makes I would rather go,
But I will also say this, what you do with your 1-offs and your 2-offs or whatever is important. I mean, you want power and stolen base upside out of those guys. And I will say this, that none of the optimizers do a good job of that, including SaberSim. Literally none of them do a good job of putting, power / base stealing 1-offs in as opposed to other. It seems as though the 1-offs they just drop are just almost random.
Yeah, they're just going on average point projection versus
ceiling.
I mean, I guess ceiling in baseball is always a tough thing to use, but realistic ceiling, I guess.
Right.
And it's funny because and then I go the other way. I tend to do more stacking in basketball than most people do, because everybody else specifically just puts in the guys they think are the best plays. Right. Well, I can get a little edge, and then also you're going to run into 5% of games that run into overtime, in which case you're crushing everybody if you get that 4 or 5 players from that game. And usually pace and everything like that has a lot to do with it. So it really depends on the sport, but I like the idea of trying to get different where other people aren't, and I've had a lot of good results. I won a tournament with my main stack. I had a 4-2-2, and I won the 100K. But it was strictly because my 4-man stack scored a total of 1 run. But my 2-2s, I had 2 guys who hit 2 home runs, another guy who had 2 stolen bases and a home run. You know what I mean? It was interesting because it was really the non-stacks won. And we saw that the other night. Somebody won with a stack of a team that scored 3 runs, but really, and it was a 5-man stack. But the other 3 players they had each had 35.
Well, as the league turns into obviously more and more home runs. And now with the increase in stolen bases too, it's I think this is a good season really to emphasize that to getting good one-offs.
And people are doing the one-off thing. They're just always using Acuna and Mookie Betts because you can see when they're guys, those guys are like 20+% owned, and nobody else on their team is like more than 5 or 6% owned because you can't afford them.
Right.
You just know that's what everybody else is doing. Those are always going to be the one-offs everybody uses. Whereas like Matt Olson and Austin Riley especially, like these guys don't get nearly as much one-off love. They're much more only in parts of stacks that people use.
All right, so I guess what we should do, let's get out of here for a few minutes.
Yeah.
And then like 12:30 or something like that.
Yeah.
We'll go. Yeah. Let me. I got to do something real quick. So then 12:30 at 12:30 we'll go and we'll do the. It's only a 4-game session. You could be out here in a half an hour easy.
Yeah.
We'll go through that easily. So we're going to come back here live at 12:30 to break down the main slate.
Yeah. Good luck, everybody. We'll see you guys soon.